how to blur out something in Davinci Resolve and make that blur gradually disappear. I will blur, let's see, the license plate of the car. So go to the color tab, go to window, add, let's say, a circle. You can resize it using the blue white dots. Whatever, you can adjust it later. Position it onto the car's license plate. By the way, you can zoom in by rotating the scroll wheel of your mouse, and you can pan it left right by pushing down the scroll wheel of your mouse and adjust it more precisely. Now go to the blur and adjust the amount of blur using the radius. Drag any of these numbers to the right and notice the image is being blurred there. Now go to that one, which is the tracker. Set it to frame, otherwise you cannot adjust it when needed. And let's try to track it forward and backward. Let's see if that will work. Yes, it worked. Let's stop it. Z to zoom out. Go back to this keyframe using that arrow. And from there, let's track reverse also. Okay. Now we have this set of keyframes for the tracking window, tracker and window. And we have this set of keyframes for the blur. So in order to use this one, you have to start it by going here to character and click on that rhombus shape. Not the circle, but the rhombus. And when it is red, then it is automatically creating keyframes when you modify, let's say, the blur. So let's say at this point where the license plate is not even visible, the blur should be disabled. The lowest value is 0.5 and the blur is gone and a keyframe was added. Now go forward, it is already visible. You can zoom into this portion using this one, and at that position the blur should be higher. And notice the blur is higher. Let's exaggerate a little bit so that it's clearly visible. There's the blur. Okay, and when we go further away, that blur is very ugly and it should get much smaller. And in that point, the blur should be just a little bit higher. That is 0. Let's say 0.55, because 0.5 is the minimum. So in that point we have a very minimal blur, and as you can see here we have a stronger blur, and if we go even further the blur is gone. Let's activate the window so that we can see where the blur should be. Let's even zoom in. So no blur, strong blur, and no blur or minimal again. Further away, let's say there, we can even set the blur to 0.5 because it should be gone. So no blur, minimal blur there at the license plate, strong blur here at this one, and no blur again. So here we don't have any blur, gradual blur, and no blur at all. That's how to gradually blur out something in DaVinci.